And we're going live. Hey, this is Dr. Bill Janishak, and I thought I'm doing my podcast. So if you haven't checked out the podcast, it's a Conquering Stress podcast, and I've been doing it on it not really as consistently as I wanted to, but every once in a while there's a topic that comes up, and then I want to talk because I really have these cool conversations all the time with mostly my nerdy friends and the like. And one of the topics that's been coming up, it just seems like they come in waves, and it's menopause. And I don't know if it's the time of year. I don't know if it's just my reticular activating system is up and working, or if it's actually a bigger issue right now than before. So with that being said, I want to welcome you to the Conquering Stress podcast. And it's Conquering Stress, but just because it has stress in the name, it doesn't mean that if you're not stressed out right now, that this is not applicable, because all health, healing, and wellness and optimum well-being is physical, chemical, and emotional. So if we can conquer the stress end of it, we can also use the same tools to optimize our health, wellness, longevity, overall happiness. So with that being said, I would love to bring in my buddy, Glen Depke, traditional naturopath. So anybody that knows me and knows that me and Glen been like tied at the hip for over a decade. So welcome, Glen. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah, actually, like over 14 years, Bill.
Has it been that long?
I know. Yeah, I know. Where does the time go?
Well, how is it that we're not even old? So
I
we've been
know. I
doing
know.
that.
We get younger as the years go on, right? Follow us. Do what we do.
Well, and again, for anybody watching that doesn't know Glen, doesn't know his background, Glen's a traditional naturopath. So for anybody that knows Mercola or Mercola.com, which is the world's biggest wellness website in the world, Glen actually set up his nutritional center in Chicago. What year was that?
2001.
So yeah, so 22 years ago, Glen's, I'll say it because you can't, because he'll sue you. But so Glen's highly responsible for a lot of the Mercola's outcomes that he gets, and to this day, he still travels around the country, training other doctors, facilities, healthcare facilities on natural medicine, natural healing, and the arts. So I thought, now that we could finagle you down, I thought I could get you while you were still in the office, but alas,
No.
Glenn's in Chicago.
That's right. You never know where I'm going to be, do you, Bill?
No, you're like, where's Waldo? We don't even know where you're at. But since we got you here, I want to talk about menopause. You're the hormone guy. You've written Fat, Fatigued, and Frustrated, which is a great book that kind of explains that and gets to the heart of the matter. But I kind of wanted to know, and the questions that I've been getting, I'll pass them on, is why are we getting these symptoms? I know we were talking about a story about, there was a thing with Oprah and Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
Can you share that?
Yeah. Well, and it's what's interesting about it too, Bill. Like you mentioned at the beginning, you don't know if it's something in the air or is it that season. Statistically, this is actually kind of shocking. Just in our country alone, 6,000 women enter menopause every day.
Wow.
So that's something like 1.62 million women every year who enter menopause. And you're right though. There was Oprah got together with Drew Barrymore and Maria Shriver, and they were talking about, and Oprah was referring it to as the big M for menopause. And it was interesting to just listen to what they were saying. Yeah, because these are some high level females in our culture who have all the money to do whatever they want with, right? To get what they would think is the best care. Yet here's what they were saying. Drew Barrymore said that she feels incredibly lost and she's getting mixed guidance from all the medical professionals. Oprah said that there's a stigma that women feel invisible, they lack awareness, and there was the worst thing ever. She said, and women feel like that dusty old thing, and I was like, oh, that's brutal. And it's the whole thing though is, the reality of it, Bill, and I think you and I would be two guys who would recognize this, is there's, for women, the the reason why so many women are dealing with hormonal symptoms tied into menopause. So whether they're dealing with the weight gain, which is typical, usually there's at least 10 or 15 pounds of weight gain, the hot flashes that are going on through the day, the sleeplessness, the fatigue, the brain fog, the mood swings. I mean, the list goes on. And and what's interesting though is that really shouldn't be the case. Though those are not symptoms of menopause. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit deeper. Yet the reason why that's such a big deal though, like you mentioned, stress. Well, as men, and I recognize this by working with so many women in my practice over the years, and what I see is that men in general have it way easier than women. Whereas women, they typically, like, we throw around words like equality, but we don't have equality. Women work way harder than men do. They usually take care of their children, they take care of their husband, they take care of their home. Very often they're involved in their church or the community. And they work a full-time job too. Yeah, so
Wow.
so
Right.
it's no wonder. So most women, by the time they reach menopause years, they've spent the last 3 decades like overworked, overwhelmed, and overstressed, and it's no wonder why then these symptoms are being driven. And the key thing is just to understand it's not a menopause symptom, it's something else.
Wow. So that's interesting too, because this is the Conquering Stress podcast. If you imagine what's going on with them throughout their lifetime, uh, kids, relationship, spoiler alert, women tend to be a little bit more emotional than men anyways, but jobs, high power jobs, and just trying to balance the feminine energy with the masculine energy that
Right.
goes on. So that whole HTP axis, or the stress response, is firing through their whole life.
Decades.
Yeah.
Decades. Yeah, absolutely.
So when you take out one of the main organs that's helping them manage that, and there's the rest of the team can't bump up to go in normalcy. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and it's kind of like, you're thinking of it this way: when a woman goes through menopause, and here's an interesting thing too: whether somebody believes in God, the universe, Mother Nature, evolution, whatever you believe in, here's a simple question: do you really think the female body was designed to fall apart at 50 years old? And it's
Yeah.
not. It's not. It's when a woman stops the childbearing year production of hormones in their ovaries, when that begins to slow down and then stop in the ovaries, the body's already designed, it's already got backup systems to continue the proper production of estrogens and progesterone and testosterone to still maintain a healthy life, like to still feel good about your self, still stay lean, still, just have a normal temperature through the day, still get a good amount of sleep, and still be able to think clearly and have the energy through the day. Like, the whole female body is designed to stay right there, because really the only two true symptoms, and when I say this, Bill, almost every woman is like, yes, the two true symptoms of menopause women usually love. It simply means you don't have a monthly cycle anymore and you can't conceive. And most women would celebrate those two symptoms, and everything else is not even a symptom of menopause, except that most women are indoctrinated into really believing the lies of menopause.
You know, do you know the history of that? Because I'm thinking about um, Little House on the Prairie, and if Ma Ingalls, I don't remember her going through menopause, or people in the 18, or them talking about it like they do today. And you know, what's the shift? Did
Yeah,
you
well,
happen?
yeah, here's the whole thing. The history of it, Bill, too, is so interesting too, because women back in traditional cultures, women were almost idolized in a culture when they would go through menopause. They were looked at as hitting a level of wisdom that they've never achieved before that. And they didn't have these symptoms. Like, there weren't, like, a lot of times I hear women talk about menopause symptoms as a weakness. And a lot of times it is even tied into like the male society. They kind of put that on women, right? And it's not a weakness. It's just an imbalance, right? And but in traditional cultures, that wasn't the case. And even to this day, like Bill, one of the best testimonials I ever had received from anybody in regard to menopause was a woman who I was doing a big menopause event online. This was a couple of years ago, and she had mentioned she actually got on the video live and said, she says, well, I'm 51 years old. I'm already postmenopausal and I didn't have one symptom. And she says, I can thank Glenn for that because prior to menopause, we worked on my balancing my hormonal system. We worked on the triggers that was causing that. So I got to the menopause years and just skated through it like it was just another day in my life. And that's what every single woman should be saying.
Well, that's interesting too, because that's the natural process. I mean, we talk a lot when we just have the conversations about how, what we're used to as normal is how healthy people die or how sick people die. They just kind
Right.
of like, oh, I feel worse, and and I get in my 30s, and you slow down, it's normal, and that just because it's so common, we consider it normal because, well, everyone else around me is going through the same thing. So
Right.
you if you never think to ask the question, you never get the answer.
Right.
And it's interesting with all the technologies, and they're trying, better living through chemistry and everything else that we're doing. We don't have an AI to take care of this, multi-million year old body or physiology that we have, and we bypass some of the basic things in nature. Um, so what would so someone's out there listening or watching this now, what's the first thing that you recommend to your clients or somebody you'd meet on the street?
Yeah, the first thing I always bring up is like, and Bill, I know you talk about this all the time as well. The first thing I always talk about is you've got to address your fundamentals of health. You got to make sure you're doing the simple things in life, at least a focus on them. Now, not that I expect anybody to be perfect, yet all the simple things have to be addressed. And the other thing that's really key is once you're actually focusing on the fundamentals, the other thing that's important is to actually do a hormone test that gives you answers. Yeah, because like the typical testing that's done nowadays, conventionally as well as holistically, is typically looking at blood work for what's your estrogen and your progesterone levels, and sometimes testosterone. That's usually about it. Yeah, and yet the challenge though is that blood only shows the level of the hormones in the blood in that given moment. There's no recognition of cycling through the day. It's just what's in the blood. There could be a hormonal buildup in the tissue in the body. It's never found. And so when I'm looking at the hormonal system for women, I'm doing a 24-hour urine collection so we can see how this cycles through the day. And I'm not looking at just like 3 or 4 hormones. I'm looking at 32 different hormones. I'm
Mhm.
looking how the kidneys affect this. I'm looking at how the liver affects it in 2 different ways. I'm looking at the chronic disease risk factors, which could be tied into gut issues or inflammation. Like you have to really know what you're looking at. And when you're looking at the urine as compared to the blood, if somebody happens to have a buildup of hormones in their tissue, which happens a lot. And really, Bill, I see this a lot with women who have been put on, creams or patches where they just don't have a really a significant vascular absorption. So they're taking the hormones in the cream or the patch. It's getting into the skin, but it's not getting into the blood, and it's just building up in tissue. So, I mean, I've seen women who've been on estradiol creams who, by the time we look at the testing in the way that I do in the clinic, they could be in an estrogen dominance, which is a significant risk factor for breast cancer, and they don't even know it because it doesn't show up in blood. So then it's addressing the protocol to help balance that hormonal system, while also very important, you have to figure out what are the triggers that cause this in the first place.
Well,
And
it's interesting too. I'm just going to interrupt you a sec. So I see that every day as well. And it's not only, I'm seeing it in teenage boys.
mm-hmm.
And, because some of the people go, oh, hey, I'm full on hippie and I don't do this and I don't do that, but we're still getting it in our foods.
Right.
We're getting it in, well, not me personally on our makeups, but all these other things that are estrogen drivers, because we have an estrogen dominant society that we live in. So we don't even know we're getting a lot of this overload anyways.
Right, exactly. Well, and two, you microwave plastics or xenon estrogens,
Yeah.
created in that. Like just the list goes on as to all the places that this exposure is occurring, through hormone use in cattle. I mean, it's endless, and it really is, Bill. It's an epidemic proportion at this point. And even to the point, you've heard me say this. So I haven't counted in a long time. Last time I counted how many hormone test kits I've looked at over the years is 7,327 was last time I counted. And I haven't counted in a while, so it's probably up over 7,500. And out of that many test kits, I've seen a total of only this many. So 6
So
come
those,
back
yeah,
normal.
okay. I was going to say, for those of you that are listening to that, he was holding up a whole hand and one finger. So
That would be 6. Yeah, and it's a big deal, and the whole thing. This is what gets me though, Bill. It's so fixable. I remember one time, one of my clients, she's a week into her protocol, and she sends me an email, and in the subject line of the email, it said magic drops. And she's like, why didn't anybody ever tell me about the magic drops before? And it's all, and here's the thing. This is the kicker too, Bill. All of this is done. Yes, I've been in practice for 22 years now, and I've been looking at hormones for the last 18 now. So in those 18 years, here's the other maybe shocker for ladies out there. I've only recommended estrogen maybe 4 or 5 times and progesterone maybe 6 times in my entire career. And I've never recommended a testosterone. So all of this can be fixed without utilizing what is typically the recommendation. And it really is relatively easy to fix. It just takes time. It takes a little effort. It takes a little bit of an investment. And yet I see it all the time. And it sucks so bad that women have to suffer in the way that they do, because it doesn't have to be.
well, and I think it's important for what you do is the education portion, because th- we're going from like the people that are listening to this that think it's normal, that it's just part of life, with something to look forward to, and then they go to their doctor to get help with it, and they're doing this treatment where they're bringing it, and it's the same philosophy. It's like, well, we'll just add more of this and I'll give you this pill, and we know that lifestyle medications, it's 80% of the prescriptions, because it's like a subscription service that they're getting paid forever, and to dampen the symptoms, and you're wafting at the smoke, but the fire is still blazing away, and nobody said, hey, have we ever thought about putting out the fire? Because great grandma didn't really seem to have to go through this stuff. And I do this with the stuff that I work on in a holistic manner as well. If you put out the fire, the smoke goes away.
Right.
And by putting out the fire, you're living this wonderful life without having to deal with it. And it's first and foremost, I didn't even know there was an alternative to, I thought this was the way that you treated it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Well, and it's gotten to that point too, Bill. It's just, it's kind of funny. There's, excuse me. I had somebody on, because I do a lot on social media, and every once in a while, it doesn't happen very often. Every once in a while, I'll have somebody comment, well, shouldn't this be coming from a woman? Like this information. And I'm like, well, it could come from a woman, but really where it needs to come from, it needs to come from somebody who's been, worked with literally thousands of people, help them achieve success with this. That also isn't like, as a man, I'm not indoctrinated into what menopause should be. So I just look at it clinically. I just see that I see the fundamentals, I see the tests, I see the triggers. And the way I think about it, I'm like, oh, well, we just need to fix the fundamentals, know what's going on, help balance the hormonal system and eliminate the triggers. And guess what? No more smoke, no more fire.
Yeah.
And I love that analogy too.
Well,
I can use
the
that,
other,
right? Permission to use that analogy.
yeah. The other thing is that when you get into that, it's, you should be a woman. Um, and who knows, maybe we'll get you a Bud Light can that with your picture on it or stuff. But it really doesn't matter because it was like, that's kind of analogous of maybe your oncologist should have cancer or
Right,
your cardiologist should have, you know, cardiac issues or,
right.
it, we are just the facts, man, and how it goes. And I just think it's wonderful. Now, you have a program coming up?
Yes, yeah. Actually, it's kind of I've been playing too small with this over the years, Bill. Just been helping women one on one, which is fantastic. And it literally, like I said, it's been over 7,500 women over the last 18 years. And so I finally decided to launch this in a bigger level, to where it can get out to the masses. Because what I really want, my intention is, when women think of menopause, I want them to think of it differently. Yeah, I want to be the person that drives the change in the stigma and the thought on menopause. And I want to help be that person to really change that whole paradigm. So my initial release of the larger program is actually coming up very soon, actually, Saturday, May 6th. And I'm doing a small, intimate event actually at my house. My friends call my house Casa de Depke because it's like a little resort. So I'm taking a total of 15 women, of which I'm into single digits left now at this point as far as openings. Yeah, yet what's going to go on in that day is we're going to address all the fundamentals, see where you're at individually. We're going to have actually Dr. Bill is going to be a guest speaker talking about how your neurology and your structural function ties directly into hormones and movement. We're also going to have an expert on femininity coming in, Kimmy Seltzer. That is going to be amazing. And then I'm going to teach every single woman who's there how to read their body signs to uncover the underlying triggers of what's causing the hormonal imbalance in the first place. So we're literally going to have education from 10 in the morning until 5 o'clock at night with about an hour break for lunch. And then after that, this is how awesome this day is going to be, Bill. So after that, not only are you going to get all this education, you're going to get that test kit that I talked about, where it's looking at 32 different hormones and all these other factors, which is usually the test kit in itself is valued at 485. And
Right.
then on top of that, because I think every woman should feel special. So that's what this day is going to be. So not only are going to get this fantastic education, they're going to have a wonderful gluten-free catered lunch. We're going to have a happy hour with organic wines. We're going to actually go into a catered dinner. We're going to have some wild caught salmon, a fantastic chicken dish, or a vegan option. And then once we're done with that, I have somebody coming in and we're going to actually enjoy a vibrational sound bath therapy. So it's just going to be one of those days that every woman who's there, this is a day they're going to talk about the rest of their life. And then past this live event, then I'm going to start to release this as an online event. And probably I'm guessing that this live event is going to be very successful and I'll probably do it again in the future. But definitely not at this initial release price point though.
Well, it's hard to get a hold of you though, because like I said, you're on the road all the time. So you don't get, I remember we used to do a lot of smaller events
Yeah.
but it's interesting as you get more demand going on, it's just harder to get in there. So that's kind of cool that we're doing that event.
Yeah. And it's just going to be, and I really wanted to be, I could have just done it I could have done it in your office. I could have done it in a conference room at a hotel. I could have done it a lot more places and probably even had more people. Yet I really wanted to make this not just an educational event. I wanted to make this like an epic, iconic event for women to enjoy and to talk about for the rest of their lives and share this information with their friends. And it's going to be that. And it's just, and when you're going to the link that Bill had posted in the chat there, it gives you a breakdown of everything that's included, because I'm not even telling you everything that's involved. I haven't told you about the gift basket or different things. And Bill, even to the point, I have some women already that have can't make it to Southern California on that day for a variety of different reasons, who've bought this and they're just doing it. I'm going to also do a live stream on Zoom. So
Wow.
I do actually have women that I'm limited to, I can't take more than 15 people, because every woman has to be able to fit comfortably in my home. So I literally have to cap it at 15 people. But then after that, for people who can't get into, can't get to this part of the country on that date, or for those who uh, for whatever reason need to get a replay on it, there's still an option. And even after the 15 people, other women can jump in, but then it would have to be over Zoom as well.
Well, and just for everybody, so we're in Southern California, in Orange County. So people listening or watching this, and you guys want to jump into the event virtually, just to let you know, or if you're going like, where are you guys at? We're in Southern California, so you guys can get that link, and Glenn can have all the information on that. Well, dude, this is awesome. I mean, every time we do one of these stuff, I always, for the next couple of days, I'm always getting questions about, well, I was going to do this, I was going to do that, like that. So maybe we'll have to follow this up. I'll get the questions together and then to share this out, because this is, when I talk about kind of what we do in a holistic manner, and then you're treating your health. I was thinking about the other day, I said, we're really not, if you want to bear it down, I said, I don't treat pain, you don't treat this, that. It's all about time and happiness, but mostly time, I think, is what we're doing.
Mhm.
Because if you're worried about symptoms, whether it's menopause or it's back pain or migraines or stomach issues or a sore toe or hair falling out, if you're not healthy, it takes away what you do in time. How are you going to enjoy your life? Because here's the motivational part of it: we're all going to die. but how are we going to live during this? As we reach the second portion of our life, why do we have to sit on a couch and degrade in front of Matlock and Jeopardy until we can't move, and and I can't do that, and your world gets smaller, and as your world gets smaller, you don't have the experiences, you don't have and then even if you don't have, if you have the opportunity to have those things, if you physically can't do that, or the toll that these chronic issues take on your brain and your health, you don't want to. I think that's how people get old.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not the years that pass.
No, no, no. It's well, like you said earlier, it's we typically watch sick people age,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. And this is going to be like one of those. What I think is so iconic about this, Bill, is it's not going to just be life changing for individual women. This is going to be a significant cultural shift for women overall, and they've been waiting for far too long, and you don't have to wait any longer. So that's the cool thing.
Well, there you go. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this special Conquering Stress podcast and on menopause. Check out the link for Glenn's event. If you're interested in that, I recommend that you click that right away, because it's only 15 people. Well, that's max. You already have spots taken up. So do
Yeah,
that.
we're down to single digits at this point.
Yeah. So there you have it. But most of all, I hope you got the idea to ask different questions, because it doesn't have to be that way. And I've seen it time and time and time and time and time again with Glenn's clients, is it's not that difficult. I mean, the difficult part is on Glenn. He just has to figure out which dials to move and how to do that. And you'll be super surprised on the simplicity that it is on your part if you want to get that taken care of. But you'll find that all at the event. So I want to thank you for showing up and taking your time out in Chicago.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
When you get home.
Yeah, I'll literally, I'm traveling until I get home the day before the event. I get home on the morning of May 5th. So,
well, get well rested because it's going to be a big day.
It will. It will. All right, buddy. All right, take care. Nice chatting with everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.